You guys are all good? Okay. Good morning. My name is Sergeant Diaz, Public Information Officer of Division of Police. Thank you guys all for coming out today. We're just going to do a quick update in regard to the report that just came out from in reference to the consent decree. Speaking today is going to be Dr. Anderson from the Public Police Accountability Team, as well as Deputy Chief Shults. And then after they're complete, we'll just take some couple questions. So I'm going to introduce Dr. Anderson, who's going to lead it off, and then she's going to, DC Shults is going to follow behind. Thank you. Dr. Anderson.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Lee Anderson. It's Leighanderson. I'm the Executive Director for the Police Accountability Team. It's a pleasure to be here to speak with you all. Following an investigation in 2014, the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, found that the Cleveland Division of Police, CDP, engaged in practices that violated the U.S. Constitution and federal law. The DOJ determined that there was a pattern of excessive force and that operational and structural issues within the CDP contributed to this practice. The City of Cleveland and the DOJ entered into a consent decree or settlement agreement, which requires the Cleveland Division of Police to make a number of fundamental changes to its policies, practices, and procedures to address these issues. A federal judge oversees and enforces the consent decree to ensure that the City of Cleveland complies with the changes outlined in the document. The city has made significant strides in implementing police reform and adhering to the consent decree, demonstrating a strong commitment to accountability and community engagement. We have established robust monitoring mechanisms that ensure transparency and accountability, allowing us to continuously assess and refine our strategies. Overall, our collective efforts are yielding positive outcomes that align with the court's objectives and are contributing to a safer, more responsive policing environment. The Police Accountability Team is using a whole-of-government approach by working with all stakeholders, such as the Department of Health and Communications, as well as other internal and external partners, to make certain that the tenets of constitutional policing are applied throughout the City of Cleveland. We see the fruits of those labors captured in this 15th semi-annual report. The city received upgrades in 5 categories out of 8: community engagement and building trust, crisis intervention, accountability, transparency, and oversight, and officer assistance and support. The monitor offered positive reviews in each area. It is important that I outline that. Community engagement and building trust, 3 upgrades. The monitor noted that the feedback that community members provided at monthly meetings with CDP suggests a level of satisfaction with police responses to problems identified by residents and a mutually respectful relationship between the two, and that the division's community outreach efforts continues to reflect a commitment to earn trust, cooperation, and respect from the community. The city was also commended for nearly eliminating all of the backlog that existed relative to the Community Police Commission and Office of Professional Standards document requests, which the city continues to pursue as it complies with state law. Crisis intervention, 1 upgrade. This area received high praise from the monitor, calling it an important milestone with the community, and that both cooperation and progress have been notable for these issues. The monitor was also impressed with the city's new public-facing data dashboard and offered a positive outlook on the future, stating that the monitoring team expects upward shifts in compliance status and that the city has made the case for their crisis intervention program to become an exemplary one. As I continue, accountability, 1 upgrade. The Internal Affairs Unit was applauded for their work to diligently improve upon practices and credited with having a positive impact on achieving consent decree compliance. Transparency and oversight, 5 upgrades. The monitor reiterated the importance of the city's new open data portal to host crime data in ways that will be useful to the public and researchers, which has been a reason why this area has received more upgrades than any other. Officer support and assistance, 4 upgrades. Multiple upgrades were given based on the training section making significant progress in developing and updating multi-year training plans and the fact that the monitoring team attended multiple training sessions and observed improvement in classroom management by instructors and has called their other efforts beneficial by all accounts. Although no upgrades were provided beyond these 5 areas, the monitor also gave glowing remarks in many instances about community and problem-oriented policing, stating that CDP demonstrated meaningful shifts and noting that the city devoted time, energy, and resources to better understanding the principles of CPOP, and that the city's concerted effort to putting CPOP back on its track is commendable. Bias-free policing, applauding prior strides taken to integrate bias-free policing principles into CDP's policy and training, and use of force. It is important to note that after reviewing cases, the monitoring team acknowledged that officers and supervisors are following the policies as required and described in the consent decree. The city remains dedicated to its obligations under the consent decree and looks forward to receiving the results of the official assessments for crisis intervention, use of force, and search and seizure. The city has also partnered with Benchmark Analytics, a nationally renowned vendor for their early intervention systems. We are excited about this. The procurement of this system demonstrates the city's commitment to improving policing practices within the division. This is a great step forward towards data-driven practices which will inform officer performance evaluations and supervision metrics, which the monitoring team noted they look forward to the city's continued progress in this area. Efforts are highly focused on continuing to build on the extraordinary progress made last October when compliance was increased in 35 consent decree benchmarks, a 400% net increase, and achieving a shared vision of coming into full compliance as quickly, as diligently as possible when it comes to constitutional policing in the city of Cleveland. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Deputy Chief Jared Shults. Just like Dr. Anderson said, our officers, this administration, have been making great strides in coming into compliance with the consent decree. And that's because of the great collaboration and partnerships through many forms of this government, through the mayor's office, through the police accountability team, through city council supporting it, through our work with the CPC, through all of the commanders, Lieutenant Mullen, and deputy chiefs that are standing behind me. But I want to stress to everybody, we're coming into compliance because of the great work our women and men that are doing every single day. Our officers are going out there, they're policing constitutionally, they're following the proper training, they're attending it, they're grasping the concepts, and they're utilizing it on the streets with the public, gaining their trust every day, building sustainable relationships. Our officers are the ones that are making this happen, and they deserve to be applauded and recognized for all of their hard work and their continued sustainable hard work throughout this process. So thank you to everybody. Like I said, the mayor's office, his administration, all of the city departments that are assisting with the all-of-government approach, the police accountability team, city council who's here today also supporting us, the command staff, but mainly all of our officers that are out there on the road delivering this to the citizens of the community and building the trust. Thank you.
We're opening them up for questions. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about CPOP? The last report said, or this report said that through the competition with DOJ, the division has made improvements to implement CPOP. Can you talk about those changes?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to talk about community and problem-oriented policing. It was an area where we were cited for needing assistance. One of the things that the police accountability team did was we reached out to the Department of Justice and we received what's called technical assistance. So the Department of Justice got us with another partner that is an expert in community and problem-oriented policing. They came into the space. We were able to be funded for 2 years in a row to attend the National Community and Problem-Oriented Policing Conference. The training coordinator went, I went, And now we were able to send a CPOP coordinator. We have a designated CPOP coordinator now for the division, as well as 2 other CPOP coordinators in 2 other districts. The goal is to make sure that we have CPOP coordinators in all of the districts to assist with the community going through problems and making sure that not just crime issues are tackled, but also quality of life issues.
And could you talk a little bit about like how it would change the way the department operates, like how that'll work kind of on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So with community and problem-oriented policing, it's a principle where it's beyond community engagement, right? So the community and the police work together to solve long-term problems. They work with landlords, they work with other owners, store owners, they work with community partners. Maybe it's an apartment complex that has an issue, right? And so they talk about maybe getting lights put up, right? How do we decrease crimes that are going on, but also how do we make sure that the grass is cut, right, and other areas like this. And so we have building and housing that usually attends the district policing committee meetings that go over housing that needs to be looked at, right, that crime may be happening there. And so we see the police department engaging with these other city departments as well as the community, which is really laying out and executing the principles of CPOP. Thank you.
The report in April that we monitor sort of described the city running in place, little progress. Anything else you can say just about what made the difference, between then and
Yeah, continued commitment, right? This isn't a linear process. I've been in other consent decree cities, and it's par for the course to not necessarily move up all the time because it is incremental progress, right? And so when we're having incremental progress, there are times where it's like spinning plates, right? We're going to stand in place. And at the time that the monitor said that, my response was that we were standing in place, but we were still jogging in place, right? And so as a result, you see progress during this period, right? And so sustainability is also a key issue when it comes to the consent decree space, right? And so we were able to sustain those. We only had 1 downgrade, right? So we didn't have any additional downgrades, and this time we have no downgrades. So what's key for Judge Oliver is the ability for us to sustain that progress and not get downgraded in those areas. And so we're very proud of that progress coming from the 14th and 13th semi-annual report. Thank you.
It's been almost a decade since the consent decree began. I had a chance to skim the report really quick, and just according to some of the pie charts, they have the in compliance, out of compliance areas such as bias-free policing, problem-oriented and community-oriented policing, search and seizure, transparency, supervision are still looks just to be over 50% still out of compliance.
Yes.
Almost a decade in, what's taking so long?
That's a great question, right? So part of this is that, for example, the city of Oakland has been in their consent decree for over 22 years. We have areas where consent decree cities have just been in the space, primarily because it takes a while to transform all of the policies. In consent decree space, first what you have to do is take a policy. It has to be written. It has to conform with the consent decree, as well as constitutional policing principles and 21st century policing principles within police reform. After the policy is completed, it has to be trained on. The entire division has to be trained on that. After the training takes place, then it's implementation, and then we move into the assessment phase. So we are now in the assessment phase. We are completely finished with all of the policies that have needed to be written for the consent decree. We have also been lauded for the training on those policies and their implementation, and now we are moving into the assessment phase, right? So in 8 areas, in a decade, you're absolutely right. 8 areas of consent decree, zero of those areas moved into the assessment phase. This year alone, with the police accountability team working with the Division of Police, we have 3 areas that are up for assessment: use of force, crisis intervention, and search and seizure. These areas are really important because they're the reason why the city of Cleveland got into this consent decree in the first place.
So sorry, just a quick follow-up. So it sounds like you're feeling pretty optimistic about the way things are moving forward. It sounds like things may even wrap up. So do you have any idea of how long that Cleveland may still be under consent decree?
So no, that would be up to Judge Oliver, but I can promise you that we are working diligently to ensure that there are no slidebacks and that this incremental progress continues to move in an upward motion. Thank you.
Deputy Chief, could you speak to this? You talked about, nearly 10 years. I mean, does this take a toll on officers, with the sort of the trainings and this always sort of on their shoulders, knowing that they need to comply in order to get out of this?
It does, and I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Nobody, it does take a toll. But our officers, they love the training. We're getting positive feedback on the type of training they're getting. They're craving more training, and we're providing excellent situations for them so they could utilize it and be safer out on the streets. So while in the beginning, nobody wants to hear that you're going to go into a consent decree, but coming into it, our officers are excited at the progress we're making. And like I said, they're the reason why we're making this progress. With the support of the police accountability team, with city council giving us what the tools we need, with the mayor's administration providing the tools that we need, our officers are out there on the road, and they're the ones that are making us get into compliance. They're the ones through their hard work and their excitement and their vision of this progress is what's motivating them also.
Sorry, Dr. Anderson. Why did federal court have to get involved for you to produce records?
So they didn't have to get involved. They chose to get involved. But we welcome that involvement and collaboration, right? And so we had entities within the city that were asking for records, and we're working through how to produce those records as we're moving online, coming to a new CAD and RMS system, right? And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to produce those records when they were requested. The Department of Justice and the monitoring team were amazing in helping us get to that finish line. And so they didn't have to, they chose to, and we were grateful for that assistance and that collaboration and coordination, and we hope that that moves forward with any other stalemates that we have, because it is, at the end of the day, litigation, right? And so, but we want to lift up the collaboration piece of that, the communication piece of that, and how we actually move forward to get things executed.
The Community Police Commission, the mayor ran on issue 24, yet the Community Police Commission has been largely ineffective. That was called out in the monitor report. What can be done to get that on track?
Yeah, so we're actually working right now with the Community Police Commission to ensure that the 9 seats that are vacant will be filled. So we are going through applications now. We're looking forward to interview candidates really soon. And so we're hoping to talk more about what it means to get them into compliance. So the Police Accountability Team meets about every 2 weeks with the Community Police Commission, the co-chairs, and the executive director to talk about what compliance means in the consent decree, what evidence is needed to show that they are in compliance, and how we can help them get there.
6 months ago, we were hearing for one of the explanations for why information had been turned over to the DOJ monitoring team was that the city was doing its own assessment before handing over the information that it was on.
Search and seizure, yes.
Did the city complete its assessment?
Absolutely. So that was an internal IT assessment that looked at the data. So we were specifically looking at the data to make sure that it was ready. And so we have now determined that all of our data from search and seizure is there. And we are excited to put that data into reports and also talk with the community about that data, and also make sure that the monitoring team gets full access to the data, as well as the Department of Justice, so that the assessment can be completed within the next year.
Is there your priorities, going from this to the next report, and what was the takeaway as far as what the city needs to be working on specifically, at the top of?
Yeah, it's everything. When I come in the morning, whatever fires are there, my goal is to put them out and to get back working on compliance. So they are all priorities to me. Like I said, use of force, search and seizure, and crisis intervention are the 3 areas that are up for assessment this year, so that we can show that there has been sustainable change in those areas. We also want to get community and problem-oriented policing, and also accountability, right? Accountability, transparency, and oversight shows that we're able to police ourselves when these issues come, and we don't need federal oversight, right? And so we are working hard, and as you see, we did have upgrades in those areas. Yes.
Seeing your report, with no downgrades,
Yes.
feels good, looks good. But how do you guys track how the community feels, how their relationship with police is, even as an officer?
Yes, so one of the things that we are doing is working with the Community Relations Board, right, to get some meetings on the books. We're also visiting, the Police Accountability Team visits the district police and community meetings. And we also, because the police are also, citizens even when they're not, right? And so we go to roll calls as well to explain about the consent decree. So we are taking up more of a space. So the Police Accountability Team is focusing on compliance, but we're also focusing on getting that message out to our stakeholders, right? Because it's important that they understand what the consent decree is, why we're in a consent decree, and that there are concerted efforts being made to ensure that constitutional policing is the bedrock in Cleveland and that we become an example for police reform in the United States. Thank you.
All right, this will wrap up the press conference. If you guys have any additional questions, feel free to send them out to me and we'll answer. Thank you. Everybody.